All right. Hey, everyone, and welcome back to the deep dive. So, today we're going to be diving into an episode of the Money Insight podcast. And it really caught my attention because it's all about how to become a millionaire by 32.
Wow.
Now, I know what you might be thinking, like another get rich quick scheme, right? But trust me, this one's different. They really dive deep into the mindset and the strategies that you need, and they do it in a way that's actually relatable and even a little bit entertaining. Like there's this one story where the host talks about saving $40,000 in just 1 hour using a specific strategy. I was hooked after hearing that, and I think you will be too.
Yeah, I mean, what I find fascinating about this podcast is that it goes beyond like the typical budgeting advice,
Yeah.
Like it really digs into the psychology of wealth building and challenges some of that like conventional thinking.
Yeah. It's not just about cutting back on lattes, it's about like shifting your entire mindset. So let's unpack some of these core ideas. One that really jumped out at me was this concept of the paycheck trap.
Oh yeah, the paycheck trap. So it's this idea that when you're trading your time for money, you're essentially limiting your earning potential. No matter how high your salary is, you're always capped by the number of hours you can work.
It's like you're on this hamster wheel, right? You're constantly running, but never really getting ahead.
Exactly. And that's where passive income comes in. The podcast really emphasizes building multiple streams of passive income as the key to breaking free from that trap.
So passive income. For those who might not be familiar, can you break that down a little more? What exactly does that look like?
Sure. So essentially, passive income is money that you earn without directly trading your time for it. Imagine it as like planting seeds that continue to bear fruit. Even while you're off doing other things, it could be rental income from properties, royalties from like books or music, or even dividends from investments.
Okay. So I'm starting to see the appeal here. But it also sounds like it takes some effort up front to set up these passive income streams.
Yeah, that's true. But the beauty of it is that once you've put in that initial work, the income can continue to flow in with minimal, like ongoing effort from you.
Yeah.
That's the power of leveraging systems and assets that work for you, even when you're not actively working.
So that brings us to another fascinating concept they discussed, thinking in first principles. They even mentioned Elon Musk as a proponent of this approach.
Oh yeah, Elon Musk is a great example of someone who embodies this principle. So essentially, it's about challenging assumptions and breaking things down to their fundamental truths. Instead of accepting the way things have always been done, you ask why, and you look for better, more innovative solutions.
And they shared this anecdote about planning an event and wanting to send out physical invitations, which like everyone thought was crazy in the age of social media.
Right, they're like, that's not how we do it. It's too much work.
Exactly.
But the host went ahead with it anyway. And guess what? The physical invites sparked so much buzz on social media because they were so unexpected. It created this unique talking point and generated free publicity for the event.
So it's like a reminder to not be afraid to challenge conventional wisdom and to experiment a little. Sometimes those seemingly outdated or unconventional ideas can actually lead to surprising results.
Absolutely. And this ties back into achieving extraordinary results. If you want to stand out from the crowd, you can't simply follow the well-trodden path. You have to be willing to think differently, to question the status quo, and to blaze your own trail.
I love that.
Think of it like the Wright brothers and their quest for flight. They didn't just accept that humans were meant to stay on the ground. They challenged that assumption. And look where we are today.
I love that analogy. It's a great reminder that sometimes the biggest breakthroughs come from challenging what everyone else takes for granted.
For sure.
Absolutely.
And speaking of learning from others, the podcast highlighted the importance of leveraging expertise. And this is where that incredible $40,000 savings story comes in.
Okay, I've been waiting for this one, so tell me, what happened?
So the host was facing this hefty $40,000 tax bill due to a property transfer. He initially tried to figure it out himself, but he admitted it was like trying to navigate a maze in the dark.
Oh, I've been there. Taxes can be a real headache. Did he just give up and pay the full amount?
He was about to. But then a friend suggested consulting with a tax advisor.
I can already see where this is going.
You got it. So at first he was hesitant. Spending money to save money seemed counterintuitive, right?
Right.
But he decided to invest the $200 for an hour-long consultation.
And I bet it was the best $200 he ever spent.
You're telling me that 1 hour consultation led to a strategy that helped him legally and efficiently save the entire $40,000.
Wow, that's a phenomenal return on investment.
Exactly. And it highlights a crucial point.
Yeah.
Sometimes the smartest financial decision you can make is to invest in expert advice. It can save you or even make you a significant amount of money in the long run. Surround yourself with people who excel in areas where you don't, and don't be afraid to seek guidance when you need it.
It's like that saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. Okay, so we've talked about escaping the paycheck trap, thinking in first principles, and leveraging expertise. What other gems did this podcast have to offer?
Well, next they delve into a concept called the slight edge. It's based on a book by Jeff Olson, and it's all about the power of consistent small actions over time.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So Olson argues that success and failure aren't usually the result of some grand sweeping gesture,
Yeah.
but rather it's the combination of the small choices we make day in and day out. It's like the compound interest of personal growth.
Okay, I'm starting to see the connection. So how does this principle apply to building wealth?
So they used a really powerful analogy to illustrate this, like the compounding penny parable. Imagine you have two options. Take a flat $1 million right now, or a single penny that doubles in value every day for 30 days. Which would you choose?
$1 million sounds pretty tempting right now.
I hear you. But here's the thing. After 30 days, that penny doubling every day would be worth over $5.3 million. That's the magic of compounding in action.
Wow. That's mind-blowing. I guess patience really does pay off.
It absolutely does. And it's the same principle when it comes to saving and investing. If you consistently invest even small amounts over a long period of time, the results can be truly remarkable. It's not about getting rich quick. It's about the slow and steady accumulation of wealth.
So slow and steady wins the race, right?
Exactly. And that brings us to another exciting concept from the podcast, the idea of a money-making superpower. They even link this to YouTuber Olier, who talks about this a lot.
Okay, this sounds fascinating. What is a money-making superpower, and how do we find ours?
So it's the idea that everyone has a unique strength,
Huh.
a natural talent or skill that can be leveraged for financial success. It's like a hidden superpower just waiting to be unleashed.
I love that. So it's not just about learning new skills,
Yeah.
but also about recognizing and capitalizing on what we're already good at.
You got it. And the podcast suggests that this superpower could come from a variety of places. Your upbringing, your skills, your passions, even your interests.
So how do we figure out what our superpower is?
Well, they use the example of starting a podcast as a way to leverage personal strengths. It's about finding that sweet spot where your interests and your talents and what people are willing to pay for intersect.
I'm starting to see the bigger picture here. So it's not just about hustling harder. It's about working smarter by tapping into our unique strengths and building systems that can generate income even when we're not actively working.
Now you're getting it.
Yeah.
But there's more to uncover. Let's take a pause here and come back in part 2 to explore how living below your means fits into this whole financial freedom puzzle.
Sounds good. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Before we paused, we were talking about this exciting concept of a money-making superpower. It's really got me thinking about my own strengths and how I could leverage those for financial success. But before I get too carried away with my own entrepreneurial dreams, let's circle back to another key principle from the Money Insight podcast, living below your means.
Yeah, living below your means, it's a classic piece of financial advice, but often it's easier said than done, especially when you start earning more money. It's tempting to upgrade your lifestyle to match.
You're telling me it's like every time I get a raise, I start thinking about a nicer apartment, a fancier vacation, maybe even that new gadget I've been eyeing.
Exactly. It's what they call lifestyle inflation. As your income increases, your spending tends to creep up as well. You get a bigger house, a more expensive car, and suddenly you're back to living paycheck to paycheck, even though you're making more money.
So it's like you're running on a treadmill. You're moving, but you're not really getting anywhere.
That's a great analogy. And the podcast host shared a really interesting anecdote about this. He talked about selling his car because he realized he rarely used it.
Now that's commitment to living below your means. But I get it, cars are expensive. Did he say what he did with the money he saved?
He said he redirected those funds to investments. Instead of letting that money get eaten up by car payments, insurance, and maintenance, he put it to work for him.
Okay. So living below your means doesn't necessarily mean depriving yourself. It's more about being mindful and intentional with your spending, right?
Exactly. It's about aligning your spending with your long-term financial goals. Do you really need that expensive car? Or would that money be better served invested in something that will grow your wealth over time?
So it's about delaying gratification and playing the long game.
Precisely. And remember, it's not just about big purchases like cars. It's also about those small everyday choices. Do you need to eat out every day? Or could you pack your lunch a few times a week? Can you brew your own coffee instead of hitting that drive-through every morning?
Yeah, those little things can really add up.
Absolutely. And the money you save by making those small adjustments can be redirected towards building your financial future.
This reminds me of what we were discussing earlier about passive income. By living below your means, you're essentially creating more space in your budget to invest in those income-generating assets, right?
That's a great connection. It's all interconnected. You free up money by spending less.
Yeah.
You invest that money wisely. And those investments start generating passive income, which then gives you even more flexibility to live below your means comfortably. It becomes a beautiful cycle of financial empowerment.
It's like a snowball effect for financial freedom.
Exactly. And you know, one thing that struck me about the podcast host's approach is that he emphasized that financial freedom isn't about deprivation. It's about making choices that align with your values and goals. If owning a fancy car is truly important to you, then go for it. But make sure it fits into your overall financial plan and doesn't derail your progress towards your other goals.
It's about being conscious and deliberate, not just blindly following societal pressures to keep up with the Joneses.
That's a great way to put it. It's about defining what success means to you, not letting others define it for you.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. We've talked about escaping the paycheck trap, thinking in first principles, leveraging expertise, the power of the slight edge, finding your money-making superpower, and now living below your means. Is there anything else from the Money Insight podcast that you think our listeners should know?
Well, in the final part of the episode, the host ties all these concepts together and leaves listeners with a very thought-provoking question that I think will resonate with everyone on their journey to financial freedom.
I'm intrigued. Let's dive into that final part after a quick pause. All right, welcome back to the deep dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of the Money Insight podcast and their roadmap to becoming a millionaire by 32. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling pretty inspired right now.
Yeah, me too. We've uncovered so many valuable insights, from escaping that paycheck trap to finding your money-making superpower. It's like a toolkit for financial freedom.
It really is. And you mentioned that the podcast ended with a thought-provoking question. I'm curious to hear what it is.
Well, after laying out all these principles and strategies, the host challenged listeners to think about their own unique potential. He asked, what unique strengths or experiences could you leverage for financial success?
Ooh, I
Yep.
like that. It's a call to action. So let's turn that question back to our listeners. What about you? What are your hidden talents, your passions, or even those like quirky experiences that could be your ticket to financial freedom?
Right. Maybe you have a knack for creating beautiful, handcrafted items that you could sell online. Perhaps you're a whiz at organizing and could launch a decluttering business. Or maybe you're like a coding genius and could develop the next killer app. The possibilities are endless.
And I think that's the key takeaway here. Financial freedom isn't some exclusive club reserved for a select few. It's attainable for anyone who is willing to think outside the box, apply these principles, and tap into their own unique potential. It's about recognizing that we all have something valuable to offer, and it's about finding creative ways to share those gifts with the world.
Absolutely. And what I appreciate about this podcast is that it emphasizes that financial success isn't just about the money. It's about having the freedom to live a life that aligns with your values, to pursue your passions, and to make a positive impact on the world.
To support the causes you care about, to spend time with loved ones, to create a life you truly love.
Exactly. And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be challenges and setbacks along the way, but with persistence, the right mindset, and a little bit of creativity, you can achieve your financial goals and create a life of abundance and purpose.
That's it for our deep dive into the Money Insight podcast. We hope you found this exploration valuable and are feeling inspired to take your own financial journey to the next level.
Remember, financial freedom starts with a single step. So what will your first move be?
Until next time, keep diving deep and keep learning.